which is always the question, what did you think was going to happen today? This is the sentencing day. Have you made any provision for your kids if you have to go to jail?
Yeah, I've thought about it. But
I mean, if you don't come home today, where are your kids right now?
my youngest is with his dad
And where's your oldest son?
at home
By himself.
with my friend.
All right. We'll hear from you in a minute, but that's also disappointing. Autumn says in a report, or Debbie says in the last paragraph, despite what appears to be an obvious problem with alcohol, defendant doesn't feel she doesn't need probation. She doesn't want to lose her job by going to jail. She doesn't have a great history of paying her fines and costs. She's been threatened with hefty amounts of jail before, 90 days in Indiana, 90 days here. That didn't deter her from drinking and driving for the third time in the 4 years where she was caught. She said she needs to be there for her sons and wants to keep her one son in martial arts. She doesn't seem to grasp the impact that her consumption of alcohol is likely having on these children. Having kids is not a get out of jail free card. And if she doesn't want to put in the work to have sustained sobriety, she's going to end up hurting herself or her kids. Her exceedingly high BAC for each of her OUI incidents is troublesome and indicates she has truly not have a period of sobriety, as she's able to get her BAC into high ranges without blacking out or getting ill. So she's suspicious that you've been sober for all this time, but we'll take that as it is. In this matter, the defendant was driving while highly intoxicated on 4/8 of 23, where she observed by 2 Michigan State police troopers. She said there's never a cop there when you need one. You were doing this right in front of the troopers, who often take Fawn River Road. She veered off the road, nearly striking a tree before returning to the roadway just as it passed the troopers before 1 a.m. She did not perform well on the field sobriety test and refused to submit to a PBT. She refused to submit to a chemical test and asked what her specific response was, and she would submit. Her response was, "Fuck you." She wanted that quoted in the trooper's report. Defendant was obnoxious, rude, and despite having a warrant issued for her blood, she refused to cooperate with the medical staff. She repeatedly refused to cooperate and yanked her arm away while the needle was in her arm. Her blood alcohol came back at 0.235, which was approximately an hour and a half after she was observed driving. And again, shame on Applebee's from earlier today, letting that defendant drive out of there while she was barely competent. She passed out in the middle of the street. Shame on Tomahawk for serving you all this liquor and letting you drive away from there. I've been on their case a little bit, but they should be ashamed of themselves. Ms. Davis says, with all this in mind, I would recommend a substantial jail commitment followed by a 24-month probation. This would hopefully be enough to deter her from consuming alcohol long enough that she can get a sustained period of sobriety under her belt. The idea is to increase the penalties the more time someone breaks the law, which would indicate there would be a sentence of more than 90 days. So she says, we recommend more than 90 days. Having kids isn't a get out of jail free card. And you were horrible to the troopers, the hospital staff. And this was your third offense. And saying, I'm sorry, isn't a solution to that. Autumn's recommendation, as you saw, was a probation with some upfront jail. And you've come here making zero provision to do anything with your kids if you did have to go to jail. Autumn, we'll hear from you, and then we'll hear from Danielle.
These are horrible case facts. It was very upsetting to see Miss Walker come across all of our dockets when this incident occurred. Her blood alcohol in this incident was a 235. In February of 2019, that incident was at 0.299. I'm unable this morning to find the blood alcohol from LaGrange County. She's got 3 within 4 years. She tells me that she's been sober for the past few years. I'm not so sure. She tells me that when her sons do go to their fathers, which is not on the regular, she isn't sure what to do. My guess is she's staying at home and drinking. She lives in Bronson. She works in Sturgis. Night of the incident, she isn't sure why she called the ex-boyfriend, buy him a drink for his birthday, but she did, and here we are.
Well, that relationship with Daryl was not very healthy. Back in 18, she had that whole incident was with him.
Correct. She's gonna lose her license. My fear is she's gonna continue driving. She doesn't have anybody else. The boys' fathers don't have their licenses either. She stated it was due to alcohol related as well. She needs jail. Frankly, I think there should have been held the line on a felony case, and she should be sitting in front of Judge Stutzman. She has addictions. I understand that she's going to battle that addiction for the rest of her life, but there are consequences for your actions, and they should increase the more you do the same exact thing. She's been in treatment. She's been on probations. She says she won't be able to get to testing. She's not financially sound. She doesn't get any help. She's working part-time. My hands are tied. I'm going to stand behind my recommendation as I feel it's the best thing for not just for herself, but for her children.
All right, Danielle, you've heard what everybody else had to say. And I know you're concerned about this being on a live stream, which may temper what you want to say. But with that in mind, what do you want to tell me?
I don't know what to say.
What do you think I should do?
I don't know.
Well, you don't want probation.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, you don't want sobriety court.
I can't afford sobriety court.
Yeah. If I could just clear that point a little bit. The issue is understanding it is an important commitment, but the time commitment and the monetary commitment, and without a license being able to attend.
It is certainly. I'll concede that, and she comes from a place of knowledge because she did it. So we took her out of sobriety court. She relapsed a couple times while she was on regular probation in March of 20.
I wasn't on probation then.
Yes, you were. You were put on probation. We had a probation violation hearing, and then you admitted to the probation violation. I gave you 2 days in jail in March of 2020. The sobriety court probation that morphed into regular probation with less requirements. So then in June, we just let you go. So you were drinking in February probably, and then in June, we just said, all right, I guess we've gone as far as we're going to go. And you've held it together for a while. Autumn has some suspicion that you were still drinking. I can't say, because you went from 0 to 120 on this day. If you weren't drinking, and that's a tenet of alcoholism. You can't have the first drink. And I've told the story about some famous people, Elizabeth Vargas, Jeff Daniels, other people that are famous and struggle with alcohol, and they had the first drink and that was right back to the bottom of the pit. They're both now in long-term recovery. But you went from, if it is this, you called Daryl up and you had a tumultuous relationship with him, and you went to the Tomahawk, and it was like you were in a time warp back to 2019 and doing all the self-destructive things that got you in trouble in the first place. And then they let you walk out of that bar. Where was he? Where was Daryl?
I don't know.
Because the same thing, the other lady has no memory of after certain drinks.
It's because I don't drink.
She was a .19 and she passed out in the middle of an intersection with the car and drive. But you were out there. All right. So we're unanimous. Nobody knows what to do here. Is there anything else you want to say?
sobriety court. I can't afford it.
It's a.
However, if it's going to lessen my jail, well, people wanting me to go to jail, which isn't going to help. Is that a possibility?
That's not a good enough reason.
No.
I want to do sobriety court because I want to get sober. Everybody wants to do sobriety court because they don't want to go to jail. So no, that's not a very
That's not what I
enthusiastic
meant, though.
endorsement.
That's not what I meant, because jail is going to take money out of my bills and my kids.
Yes. Well, somehow you put that on me. That's not my
No,
fault.
no,
I mean, you screwed up royally, and there's a
No,
consequence. So I
that's
say, well,
not-
sorry, this is hard on your
My lawyer
kids.
and I discussed it.
Okay. I'm glad you're still here, that you're not somebody I'm reading about in the newspaper like your brother. See what I can do. I'm going to do a 24-month probation. I'm going to put the oversight fees in here, but I may be willing to waive them. $960. I can waive the fine, which is somewhat unusual. $75 crime victims' rights fee, $50 state minimum fee, a $100 screening fee, $150 attorney fee, and a police reimbursement for all the rigmarole of the hospital for $200, $25,000 PR bond, 1-day credit. I'm going to follow Autumn's recommendation. 360 days jail, credit 1, leaving 359 days to do. Of the 359, 329 are deferred, which leaves 60 to do, which starts tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
So you're going to jail tomorrow?
You're going to jail tomorrow for 60 days. I'm going to give you the day to get your situation straightened out with your kids. You're on probation. No alcohol, no controlled substances. Substance abuse counseling and treatment is directed. No medical marijuana. I don't know whether you were doing THC or CBD in addition to the alcohol, but whatever it wasn't a very good combination. 75 plus 50
Somewhere.
plus 100 plus 150 plus 960
So it's gonna be working to
plus
get the kids.
200 is
Are you
1410.
serious?
What's the question?
I just advised her that you made your ruling in your orders.
I did. Do you want to go to jail right now? I'm concerned about you harming yourself or something else. But you've made no provision for your son. It starts tomorrow. Are you kidding me? I mean, what did you think was going to happen?
I didn't think.
You don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to do probation. I still have unpaid fines and costs. My life's a mess. My kids are at risk. I nearly killed myself and a couple of state police troopers. I was a total horse's ass to the police and the hospital staff. And I said, I'm sorry. And your sobriety court at the last minute about broke my heart, because that's a recipe for failure. So yeah, you're going to jail tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
When you take a step back and really look at this sentencing, it becomes clear this wasn't just about one mistake, it was about a pattern that kept repeating. This was a third offense. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in just a few years. And each time, the situation didn't just stay the same, it got worse. Higher alcohol levels, more dangerous behavior, more risk to innocent people. At one point, the judge said something that really stood out. Having kids is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. And that's a hard truth. Because while her children are absolutely important, the court isn't just thinking about her family. It's thinking about everyone else on the road. The people who could have been hurt or even killed that night. This wasn't just drunk driving. This was driving at an extremely high level of intoxication, swerving off the road, refusing tests, and being openly hostile to law enforcement and medical staff. And despite previous warnings, previous jail threats, and previous opportunities to change, nothing stopped the cycle. That's why the tone of this hearing felt different. You could hear it from everyone involved, probation, the prosecutor, even the judge. There was frustration, but also concern. Because at the center of this case is something deeper than just a crime: addiction. And addiction doesn't care about consequences, jobs, or even family, unless it's taken seriously and treated the right way. But here's the problem. The court can offer help. The court can offer programs. The court can offer chances. But it can't force someone to truly want change. And that's where the judge had to make a decision. In the end, the sentence tried to balance both sides. 60 days in jail followed by 24 months of probation. Not the maximum possible punishment, but not a light consequence either. It's a line in the sand, a moment where the court is essentially saying, this is your chance to stop before something irreversible happens. And maybe the most telling moment of all was her reaction. Shock, confusion, disbelief. But the judge had one simple response. What did you think was going to happen? And that question says everything. Because at some point, consequences stop being surprising and start being inevitable. Now the real question is, will this finally be the turning point or just another step in the same cycle? Let me know what you think in the comments below.